The Galactic Council chamber loomed vast and opulent, a testament to centuries of interstellar diplomacy. At the center of the crescent-shaped hall, Ambassador Elias Voss of Earth stood before a gathering of alien delegates, his stance rigid, his expression an unreadable mask of restraint. He had seen betrayals before, but never one so thorough, so calculated. Across from him, High Chancellor Orvac, a towering reptilian figure with gleaming obsidian scales, regarded him with the cool detachment of a judge passing sentence. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense, masking the underlying stench of deception. Voss had known this moment would come, had seen the signs in the Council's shifting policies, the sudden coldness in diplomatic exchanges, the slow erosion of humanity's standing within the galactic order. Yet, he had clung to the hope that rational minds would prevail. "The Council has deliberated," Orvac announced, his voice carrying across the chamber like a hammer striking an anvil. "Humanity's expansion has become reckless. Your kind, in its relentless pursuit of influence, has upset the delicate balance of this galaxy." Voss's jaw tightened. The so-called balance had never been in humanity's favor. When Earth was first invited into the Council, they had been the desperate newcomers, a young species reaching for the stars, eager to prove themselves. They had fought in the Council's wars, traded resources, shared technology. And for what? To be cast aside the moment they became inconvenient? "You claim our expansion is reckless," Voss said, his tone measured. "Yet humanity has never waged war without cause. We have honored every treaty, upheld every agreement. If the Council has grievances, then let us resolve them as we always have, through diplomacy." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, but it was quickly silenced by the cold gaze of the other leading delegates. Chancellor Orvac exhaled, a slow, calculated sigh. "There will be no diplomacy, Ambassador." His clawed hand gestured to a holographic display flickering to life above the chamber floor. The image sent a bolt of ice through Voss's veins. The ruins of Outpost Helios, humanity's largest colony beyond Sol, burned in the void. Debris drifted listlessly, the remains of what had been a thriving settlement. The shattered hulls of warships, still bearing the insignia of Earth's defense fleet, littered the wreckage. This was not an accident," Voss whispered, though he already knew the answer. "Your colonies have been neutralized," Orvac said, without a trace of remorse. "Your fleets, crippled. Your homeworld, isolated." Voss clenched his fists. The sheer scale of the betrayal left his mind reeling. Earth had relied on Council-sanctioned trade routes for survival. They had believed their place in the galaxy was secure. That illusion had been shattered. The Council did this? His voice was a blade, sharp with barely restrained fury. Orvac did not flinch. "We did what was necessary. Your species has grown too bold, too unpredictable. The Council has deemed it unfit to wield the power it so desperately seeks." He leaned forward, his golden eyes gleaming with something that might have been amusement. "But we are merciful. Surrender Earth's remaining military assets, disband your fleets, and submit to governance under the Council's authority. In time, your people will adapt." Voss's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He looked around the chamber, searching for any sign of dissent. He found none. Every delegate, from the insectoid chitlins to the towering, multi-limbed Vahari, avoided his gaze. They had all agreed to this. The silence stretched. Finally, Voss straightened, his face composed, his voice quiet but unwavering. "You have made a mistake." Orvac tilted his head. "Is that so?" Voss nodded. "You think you have won. That humanity will bow. That we will submit." He took a step forward, his eyes locking onto the Chancellor's. "But you don't understand us. You never have." A flicker of something, unease, passed across Orvac's face, but he quickly dismissed it. "Your kind has no choice." Voss allowed himself a cold smile. "We always have a choice." Without another word, he turned on his heel and strode from the chamber, the weight of a dying world pressing against his shoulders. He did not look back. He didn't need to. The war had already begun. Darkness cloaked the underground hangar, a vast cavern of steel and silence buried beneath the Martian surface. The air was thick with the scent of machine oil and scorched metal, the echoes of hurried footsteps barely disturbing the oppressive stillness. General Catherine Solano stood at the edge of the command platform, her gloved hands gripping the rusted railing as she gazed upon the monstrous silhouette below. It had been decades since she last laid eyes on it, and yet, even now, the sight of Nemesis stole her breath. The mothership. Humanity's final weapon. Their last chance. A low hum pulsed through the reinforced structure as engineers scrambled across the scaffolding, their torches illuminating patches of the warship's blackened hull. The vessel stretched nearly 10 kilometers from bow to stern, a leviathan of tungsten plating and deep space artillery. Most of the galaxy didn't even know it existed. That had been the plan all along. Behind her, Elias Voss approached, his face lined with exhaustion, his movements measured. He had left Earth just before the blockade fully sealed the system, slipping past patrols on a stolen diplomatic vessel. The betrayal had cost him more than his home. It had stripped away the last of his faith in diplomacy. "This was never supposed to happen," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the sound of grinding metal. Solano exhaled through her nose. "We both knew it would. We just hoped we'd be dead before it came to this." She turned to face him, searching his eyes for hesitation, doubt. She found none. Good. There was no room for uncertainty now. "How much do they know?" she asked. Voss shook his head. "Nothing. The Council believes they've already won. They think Earth is on its knees, that we're scrambling for a way to survive. They don't suspect we had a contingency." A grim smile tugged at the corner of Solano's lips. "Then they're about to learn what desperation really looks like." A klaxon blared overhead, casting the hangar in the red glow of emergency lights. Below them, engineers disconnected the final mooring clamps, and the ship's engines, long dormant, began to stir. The deck trembled as energy pulsed through the Colossus, awakening systems that had been silent for decades. Lieutenant Reese Carter sprinted toward them, his uniform stained with oil, his brow slick with sweat. "Primary power cores are stable," he reported, his voice taut with barely suppressed excitement. "AI systems are online, and weapons are running diagnostics. We'll be combat-ready in less than 3 hours." Solano nodded. 3 hours. It would have to be enough. The blockade above Mars was tightening, and the Council's fleets would soon realize something was happening beneath the surface. If they discovered Nemesis before it launched, the fight would be over before it even began. She turned back to the ship, her heartbeat steady, her mind clear. "The moment we break atmosphere, they'll come for us," Voss said, his tone careful. "I'm counting on it," Solano replied. "They need to see what they've unleashed." Voss studied her for a moment, then exhaled, shaking his head with something that almost resembled amusement. "You always were a terrifying woman." She didn't argue. A sudden surge of energy rolled through the hangar as the ship's weapon systems cycled online. The deck beneath them groaned under the strain, the air thickening with static electricity. And then, for the first time in history, Nemesis spoke. Authorization confirmed. Weapons primed. Tactical assessments engaged. Awaiting orders. The voice was deep, resonant, threaded with synthetic undertones. Not entirely human, yet unmistakably shaped by human will. Solano straightened, her fingers tightening around the railing. "Bring the ship to full power," she commanded. "And prepare to launch." For a moment, the chamber held its breath. Then, with a deafening roar, Nemesis came to life. The void erupted in fire. The blockade above Mars had been a wall of steel, an impenetrable net of warships designed to strangle humanity's last resistance before it could even begin. Now, it was a graveyard. Wreckage drifted through space, the shattered remnants of the Council's finest fleets torn apart in mere minutes. Nemesis had risen from the red planet's surface like a vengeful god, breaking free of the thin Martian atmosphere with a force that sent shockwaves rippling through the Council's ranks. The opening salvo had been precise, merciless. Warships the size of cities reduced to glowing debris before their captains even understood what had hit them. From the command deck, General Catherine Solano watched the destruction unfold with the cold detachment of someone who had long since abandoned hesitation. The galaxy had turned its back on humanity. Now, humanity had returned the favor. Enemy reinforcements inbound, Lieutenant Reese Carter reported, his hands moving swiftly across the control interface. 27 capital ships, multiple fighter squadrons. Solano barely reacted. Let them come. The massive holoscreen before her flickered, displaying the incoming fleet. The Council had underestimated them once. They would not live long enough to do so again. Beside her, Elias Voss stood with arms crossed, his face illuminated by the amber glow of tactical readouts. This will be their last chance, he said, watching the enemy ships form up. If they retreat, we can force a surrender. If they fight, they die, Solano finished. The comms console chimed. A transmission. Unidentified, but there was no mistaking the signature. High Chancellor Orvac. Solano allowed herself a smile before nodding to Carter, who opened the channel. The alien's face flickered into view, his golden eyes sharper than they had been in the council chambers. His usual smug composure cracked at the edges. General Solano, he said, his voice tight. Humanity has made its point. You have proven yourselves capable of destruction. But this path leads nowhere. Surrender Nemesis, and we will offer terms. Solano tilted her head. Like the ones you offered our colonies? The ones you offered Earth? A pause. Just long enough to confirm what she already knew. This was no negotiation. It was desperation. I will not ask again, Orvac said. Solano stepped closer to the holoscreen. Then I won't waste my breath. She ended the transmission. A beat of silence. Then, fire. The ship answered instantly. The main cannon, a superheated rail weapon built from salvaged alien technology, unleashed a blinding lance of energy. The leading Council dreadnought never had a chance. One moment, it was a symbol of the Council's might. The next, it was gone, its core imploding, its remains scattering into the abyss. Chaos erupted. Enemy ships broke formation, their captains torn between battle and retreat. Fighters swarmed like insects, their weapons painting streaks of light across the black void. But Nemesis was unstoppable. Its automated defenses swatted down enemy squadrons before they could breach the outer hull, while precision railguns picked apart the capital ships one by one. Voss let out a breath, his expression unreadable. This is what they feared, he murmured. Solano nodded. And they were right too. The Council had called humanity reckless, unpredictable, a threat to their control. They had thought themselves gods, shaping the fate of lesser species with a flick of the pen, a quiet betrayal disguised as diplomacy. But humanity had never been reckless. They had simply been waiting. The battle did not last long. It never could have. The last enemy warship fell in a silent explosion, its hull cracking apart as Nemesis fired its final shot. The remnants of the Council's once invincible fleet were nothing but scattered debris, their ashes joining those of the countless human lives they had taken. The bridge fell quiet. The fight was over. For the first time in weeks, Voss allowed himself to breathe. It's done. Solano's gaze remained fixed on the stars ahead. No. It was not done. The Council still stood, wounded but alive, a cornered predator nursing its injuries. Humanity had won this battle, but the war was far from over. She turned away from the wreckage, her mind already on what came next. Set a course for the Council homeworld, she ordered. Carter hesitated. Ma'am, we're not stopping here. She met Voss's gaze, her expression resolute. They wanted to put humanity in its place. Let's show them where that is. The engines of Nemesis flared to life, and humanity's reckoning continued.